covering all things Open Division and Contenders, the path to pro for Overwatch League. And here are your hosts, Thorn Rain and Kyle Wynn. And welcome back for another episode of the Blackwatch Report. We are on episode 24. That's right. Kephrii takes Thorn Rain's advice. It's about time. As always, I'm your host, Thorn Rain, and with me is my co-host, Mr. Kyle Wynn. How you doing tonight, Kyle?
I'm doing great. I had a extremely busy day today, including doing some additional Blackwatch report stuff, which I guess we'll talk in the next little bit.
Oh yes. As always, we kind of just start off with what we did this week. Didn't do a whole lot. Watched a little bit of Overwatch League. Watched a lot of Contenders. Got a free pair of tickets to a local festival. So I'm taking my son to his first ever concert this weekend. We're gonna go see, I believe it's Shinedown, Machine Gun Kelly. It's a very odd,
interesting combo.
Oh, it gets even more interesting. What is it? Oh, it's not on the tickets. Shinedown, Machine Gun Kelly, Big Boy from Outkast, Little John, All That Remains, and oh man, there's another one. I can't remember who it is right off the top of my head. Yeah, it's a local radio station. He does a giant festival every year, and they bring it to my hometown, down at our festival site, and it's a mix of rap and like alt rock. So it's a good time. It's very interesting. So it's gonna be my son's first experience at a live music festival, so it should be a good time. But how about you, Kyle?
I started today off with my first bit of just straight podcast Blackwatch report content, and that was, I'm calling it the Blackwatch breakdown, where I'm just basically doing like a VOD analysis. It was super fun. There was a couple of things that I had an issue with when doing the whole streaming and capturing and all that kind of stuff, but I will probably do another one tomorrow, kind of earlier morning, noon time, because I think it's super duper fun and it helps me understand the game a bit better, and especially for certain matches. I did a review of the LNL Gladiators Legion match, which was a banger of a match to watch. So kind of delving deep into those really, really interesting close matches is always super fun. So it will be going on the Twitch tomorrow, probably. The second, I'll probably do in the next 3 maps, because I did the first 2 and took 2 hours for that. So it takes a while.
Oh yeah. And as always, it's kind of an evolving thing, just like the show. We started off a little rough, and I think we're getting better.
We're getting better.
But you know how we would know if we were getting better? iTunes reviews. We didn't get any iTunes reviews this week, so we definitely need some more of those. And literally, as we were starting up today's show, we got a Twitch follower, Coder90. Thank you for your Twitch follow. Other than that, no other new Twitch followers, no new YouTube subscribers, no new Patreons. So that's going to move us down into the news. As always, the news is brought to you by our Patreon. Again, this week, our Patreon sponsor is going to be Shrug Off. You can become a Patreon over at patreon.com/blackwatchreport. And with that, we're going to get into the news. There's no scene news, so we're going to move right into the roster moves.
So, Tonic, who is, I believe, on the Team Russia World Cup team for this year, was previously on Bazooka Puppiez, is now off of Bazooka Puppiez, and Kolsti is taking his spot at the main tank.
Oh, yes. A couple, odd moves coming up here that we're going to talk about. But this next one, we kind of saw, happening after week 1. Mayhem Academy signs Aligned. We have not seen Milky Man back since Aligned played. Aligned was the, what was it? The University of California, Berkeley? Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
UCB?
Yep.
He was the tank player on their Tespa team.
Yeah, that was not super duper surprising. We saw him come in as a sub, and it just looked better. Obviously not fantastic, but we'll give it a little bit of ramp up time here.
Mm-hmm.
Next bit of news is the source of our title this week, and that is that none other than the real Kephrii, not Big Kef,
Big Kef?
in the house. The actual streamer Kephrii has finally taken Thornrain's advice and started an open division or joined an open division team for season 3, which consists of 6 PC players and 3 former Xbox players. And seems to be mostly streamers. You got Galaxy and Circci at main tank, previously Xbox players. Techneeke at take as well. Samito, Carter, Kephrii, and Stimpy at DPS, and then Halo and Switchblades at support.
Oh yeah. Kephrii was kind of asked if this was going to be the meme team. He says no, it's legit. So I'm really looking forward to open division because, I mean, he talked a lot of smack. I called him out on around the payload. If you want to show that you're, as good as the Overwatch League, start on the path to pro, make your way into the Overwatch League, and he's doing it. So good on Kephrii. Hope to see good things come out of BirdsGG. That's going to move us along to our next bit of news here. After announcing his departure from Team Poland, the World Cup team, just last week or the week before, Mathh, the DPS for Young and Beautiful, is stepping down. He is going to no longer be competing in competitive Overwatch.
Yeah, I thought Mathh was a tank player, but maybe I don't. No, Flex DPS. Okay, interesting. I don't pay attention enough. Next bit of news is that we noticed on this latest week there is a new main tank in for Second Wind. The tank formerly of Mayhem Academy, Moopy, is in at that main tank spot now. I cannot recall who he replaced.
I don't think they dropped anyone. I think it was just kind of one of those, they picked them up and shuffled people around. So we'll wait and see. But that takes us down to the Angry Titans add Danny. He is currently on Team Canada as an analyst to kind of help them structure out their team.
And lastly, something that we noticed from LNL lately is that they haven't been playing track, and that's because he's been transferred to Young and Beautiful. I assume taking over Math's spot. Hard to say.
Yes. That's going to wrap it up for the news. So, as always, you can break away from your normal energy and go rogue. Go to therogueenergy.com and use promo code BlackwatchReport at checkout for 10% off of your purchase to help the show. And that's going to take us into This Week in Overwatch, brought to you by Liquipedia. Again, there was no tournaments this weekend, so we just have all birthdays. We're going to start off on July 15th. We have Mezzer. Turning age 28. He is the coach for the Houston Outlaws. Our next birthday is down on July 18th. So that is a big happy birthday today to Ken Maharano. He's turning age 23. He is a DPS for Cyclops Athlete Gaming. I know a lot of these teams seem a little odd, but we do cover the open division, so anybody that ends up on Liquipedia, we give them the shout outs. Then we have on July 19th, Dahang, turning age 30. Former support for none other than Team Liquid. July 20th, we have Emong turning age 28, former flex for Selfless Gaming, and he is currently a Fusion, I want to say they're called Fusion All-Stars. It's the Fusion streamers.
Sure, yes.
And then we have Mirage turning 24. He is a DPS flex player for Runaway. He is currently set as inactive. Hopefully we get to see him come back and play. And then on July 21st, we have Hoko turning 22. Flex player or flex tank for Fusion, Philadelphia Fusion. And then on the academy side, we see Alarm turning 17. 1 year closer. 1 year. Just one more year. Support player for the Fusion University. And that's going to wrap it up for this week in Overwatch. We're going to take it down into the quick play. So, Kyle, why don't you take us away?
Cool. So we covered the first map or the first day of Korean Contenders for this last week, and that was July 11th. But July 12th was, I think we filmed on July 11th. So the day after our last show, they finished out the week with, on July 12th, 7 took out GCB or GC Busan Wave 3-1, and Kongju Panthera took out Blossom 3-1. July 14th, X6 fell to Runaway 4-0, and then O2 Ardent fell to Element Mystic 4-0 as well. Both of these matches were super duper hyped up by a lot of Overwatch League people and just general fans of Korean Overwatch, because both of these teams have huge backstory. O2 Ardent was the team that beat out Element Mystic and kicked them out of the playoffs, and Runaway and X6 I think had something similar to that, but it was the least close matches that we've seen in quite a while. Lastly, on July 15th, we saw 7 take out MVP Space and Metabellum take out Blossom 2-3 and then 3-1.
And then over on the European side, we see on July 16th, Angry Titans take out Young and Beautiful 3-1. Orgless in Hungary beat out the Bazooka Puppies 3-1. Snakes beat the British Hurricane 3-1. We're seeing a little bit of a slip there from the British Hurricane, the Season 1 champions. On July 17th, we have CIS Hope just absolutely wrecking 1.40. Eagle Gaming, another team that was extremely hyped up. It's got a lot of big names on it. Fall to Who 3-1, and then Team Giganti being Team Giganti 4-0ing Copenhagen Flames. All those roster moves for Copenhagen Flames, just they really haven't panned out for them.
No, they've not.
So that's going to take us down into NA. On July 12th, we had Toronto Esports facing off against the Sky Foxes. We both had this going the way of Toronto Esports 3-1. It was close. Toronto wins it 3-2. So, Kyle, what do you got?
So, as you said, we kind of gave this Toronto Esports, gave it in their favor, but man, Sky Fox made them work for it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a reverse sweep potential here, but we didn't end up seeing it. What we did end up seeing was Retzi and Jaro in. So, Boostio and I cannot remember the other. Actually, I'm probably look this up. Boostio, Jaro, Retzi, whoever their last. It's not up there. Okay, well, I thought they had someone else in that spot at Sky Foxes.
They did. They set them to inactive. Far.
It was Far. Okay. So we didn't see Far at all. We didn't see. I don't even think we saw any Boostio. We just saw Retzi and Jaro permanently. But unfortunately, Toronto were able to beat them on Oasis 2-1. Moving on into Kings Row, Toronto Esports again had a really strong attack and just did not stop the entire way through. Had a phenomenal time, and then Sky Foxes were able to cap out as well. But Toronto was able to cap out the overtime A point. Well, Sky Foxes was not, because Toronto had a way better time bank.
And if you want to see Dalton doing something a little different, he was absolutely bonkers on Roadhog. Definitely check out this map if you want to see Dalton playing some Roadhog and hitting some crazy hooks.
Then moving on into Anubis with Toronto Esports being up 2. Here's where Sky Foxes turn it back in their favor, 3-2. Going into Rialto as well. Rialto is the map that only bad teams win, I think. This is such a, it's the true underdog map, because every single time we've seen a game played against your XL2, your Fusion University, a open division team or a trials team will make their way in from being a 4-0 just on Rialto alone. Interesting map to see. Um, Retzi here had a phenomenal game. He was kind of non-existent for the first three, but on this one, he really just started opening it up and really doing incredible things here.
And, kind of speaking on Retzi, I love me some Bloodthirsty Mercies. We see Cruz pop the Valk and just hunt down Retzi. He actually took him out once with the Valk and then just proceeded to continue to pressure him on Mercy. This isn't the first time we've seen Cruz go, absolutely nuts on Mercy and get kills, but man, I love watching it. It's always funny to watch a Widow fall to a Mercy.
Yeah, and then last thing, it was Toronto taking. So that went the way of Skyfox was 3-2, and then ioStux is where Toronto were able to solidify their win and prevent the reverse sweep. They took that 2-0, but one important note on Well, there was absolutely phenomenal stall. I think it came down to there was one person on the point from Skyfox's, and then they were able to just really steamroll it back in the other direction. Just a great momentum shift to see, but unfortunately it was not enough. So Toronto Esports took the win as we expected.
And then moving us along, our second matchup of the night was Team MV versus XL2. Oh, me and Kyle both had this going to NV 3-2. XL2 take it 3-1, and this is our deep dive for the week, so take us away.
Yes, so we start out on Oasis here. I think this week was the Oasis start, and then the next half of our matches are the Lijiang start. So we're starting off on the side of Envy with Crimzo, who had quite a number of questionable transcendences on Oasis. A lot of just fights were over, used transcendence, or either way, if it was either over for them or over for the other team, there was still a transcendence being used, not having it for next fight, and then needing it for the next fight. The other thing that I wanted to point out is Tailspin used to play Tracer quite a bit. Since he has left and now rejoined the scene, the entire league of tier 1 and tier 2 Tracers, the bar has been raised a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Tailspin was okay at Tracer, but against Tracers like Nene, it just was not cutting it. His Hanzo looked really, really good on Oasis, but his Tracer just did not.
Yeah. And kind of speaking to his Hanzo, it's kind of the Gravity Dragon meta going on. We see a lot of points going the way, switching hands based off of those. Tailspin coming off of a Gravity Dragon, getting 4, taking out the McCree, the Reinhardt, the Zen, and I put Zen a second time. I forget who the fourth was that he picked. I want to say it was the Mercy. I believe he got both supports, 1 tank and 1 DPS, and that is actually what gave Team MV that first point during their first attack, or the attack on University.
Yeah, and then on the opposite side, I mentioned Tailspin going against Nene in that Tracer 1v1. I put here, and I don't remember exactly what the reason was. I think there was just quite a number of plays here. Nene was kind of being ignored and straight just one-clipping people, coming out on supports, coming out on the other Tracer, and just really keeping Tailspin in check. And totally, definitively winning that Tracer duel.
Oh, 100%. And the thing with Tracers is, she's got a small health pool, no armor, no shields. She dies really easy. So it's not hard to kill a Tracer. Once recall is down, she's easy to drop. Nene goes uncontested and is able to, by the end of the match, have a 16 kill streak. Just absolutely insane play from Nene on the Tracer, and the fact that Team Envy just ignored him shows in his stats.
Yeah. And so because of that, XL2 would take Oasis 2-1. Eichenwald is where we come in with our second map. XL2 are going to take this 2-1 as well. because Envy got really stalled up on point B. They take A super quick, tailspin on Pharah, buds on Widow. It's like a a match made in heaven. Then comes point B, and tailspin goes Brigida, which is kind of questionable because I don't know, man. Like,
It's too
why
open.
not keep why not keep the Pharah going? Why not have those I mean, yes, you don't have as much cover with the clock tower, but there are still lots of turrets and walls and stuff to hide behind and use to your advantage. And your tailspin, you're like the best Pharah, or you were at least, and you're still pretty good. Why not play that more? Because it gave Buds no space to work with. Instead, XL2 were able to push in on them and shut them down. And then when it was their attack, actually no, on their defense, Tizzy has a primal and gets a bunch of really good kills too, and I think at least to seal the hold on B, which was an interesting play.
Yeah, he threw McGravy and Crimzo off of like the far left-hand ledge.
Right. Because yeah, I think he like came out and it was super low. Like there wasn't, Envy almost had it, but then kind of Tizzy, I believe, because I watched this last week. I believe it was like almost a one fight for Envy. But then on the side of, or moving on to Volskaya, it's again kind of the whole Tracer issue coming back again, but this was even more significant than on Oasis. This was a full hold. We saw Envious get completely full held here. Tailspin just could not check Nene, could not keep him suppressed at all. So he was going backlines, running rampant through everyone, getting kills left, right, and center. So I have an additional note here is that like they need to utilize Tailspin like, I guess like XL2 utilizes Flower, where you have two and you rotate through it. Like, the unfortunate thing is Buds is not the most fantastic Tracer player, but I still think maybe they need to have him play the Tracer instead of Tailspin. Because I think Buds was doing a better job against Nene caliber Tracers than Tailspin can. Maybe he just had a bad game. Maybe Nene just had a god tier game, but I don't really think that's what it was. I think he just got outclassed, and either they pick up like an additional player for things like this, or you need to run Buds on that instead. And you had
definitely.
a note on Nene as well, right?
Yeah, kind of going into that XL2 defense on point A, the full hold, which was ridiculous. There was a point where XL2, everyone was dead except for Nene. And the way Nene proceeded to stall out the point was blink from health pack to health pack and then back onto the point. He just went, there's 3 health packs around the outer edge of point A. There's the big one in the room, there's the little one at the back by the water, and then there's another little health pack over in the, if you're looking from the attacker's point of view on the left hand side, there's another small health pack over there. He went from health pack to health pack, replenishing his health, stalling out long enough for all of XL2 to get back to the point, and then knock all of Team Envy back off. They have to pay attention to Nene. Like, you can't leave a Tracer just to run around and stall the point like that. That's literally what lost them that point, was them not paying attention to Nene.
Yeah, and so that is where XL2 gets the win. It's a 3-0 at this point. Moving on to Gibraltar. Envy does get the consolation prize in the win here, 3-2. Part of that is now Buds has room. It seems like they have figured out Gibraltar more than they have Eichenwald. They seem to be playing around Tailspin on the Brigida a little bit better here. and they're really good at creating space. And then I think Buds is just more comfortable playing Widow on Gibraltar than he is on Eichenwald. And there was literally the funniest moment of my life and the most like, come on, what are you doing moment. Fire. So okay, let me preface this. There's a thing that Mercies do when you are rezzing while kind of in the heat of battle, and that is if the person who dies on a ledge, you as Mercy can Guardian Angel to that person, initiate the res, and then fall a little bit, so you don't have to stand on that ledge and take damage. You have to start it kind of high up in your Guardian Angel, or else it cancels. Now that happened to Fire once, and that is once is an accident. That is excusable. You learn from one. Two, in the same map, missing reses based on falling is ridiculous. And it's not like you miss a sleep dart, boo-hoo. It's a res. It is so much more high impact than a sleep dart is. Obviously, you can get an incredibly high, impact sleep dart, but like
every res is high impact.
Yes, exactly. And Fire did that twice, and they were like, I don't think they were the most incredibly key reses, but still, it is you had the opportunity to make it a 6v6, and you left it as a 5v6 because of like poor macro play, or is it micro play? I don't remember which one, but like just poor like mechanical ability and understanding of the hero, which is kind of just like maybe in quick play and gold level rank games, you're like, yeah, that's expected. But like tier 2 Overwatch from an academy team, I don't know, man.
And I mean, just based off of what we know of Fire from season 1, that isn't what we saw in season 1. Like, so I don't know if it was just kind of the shakeup from Envision dropping the team and then getting picked up and put back into Contenders. Like if like a couple of the players are just kind of off their game right now, but yeah, like this isn't normal for Fire. So
yeah.
But that's gonna wrap it up for the Team Envy versus XL2 deep dive, which takes us into the final matchup of the week, which was bye week versus NRG. Big shocker here, guys. NRG 4-0 bye week. An even bigger shocker, me and Kyle both predicted it to be a 4-0 in NRG's favor. So what do you have on this one?
I have not a lot of notes.
Same here.
NRG bring out the Legion comp on Oasis, win that 2-0. It like this was cool because this was the first time I think we've seen the Legion comp other than from a Legion team, or from the Legion themselves. And then we also saw it like this last week from the actual Gladiators too. So it's always cool to see a bit of, it works on tier 2, so let's try it on tier 1 stuff. That's one of the cool things about this GOATS comp. It originated down in tier 2, almost tier 3 kind of realm, and then it worked its way up because it's a good comp. And so it's kind of cool to see like Contenders to kind of be the breeding ground of these new creative strats. So we saw that NRG take Oasis 2-0. King's Row comes around 3-2. Stratus comes out. NRG throw in Rascal and Poise, I believe this was.
Yep.
They run a lot of funky comps here. Able to take that win 3-2. Anubis 2-1, NRG's favor as well. Stratus gets a 4K blade to seal the cap on B, which is always cool to see. And on the opposite side, Shane has been looking really, really good for this team. I think that this was the moment that I clipped. Might have been last week. Which week was it? Where he got boosted up into the air in Earth Shatters. That might have been last week.
Maybe that was last week.
Okay, because I think bye week played Anubis both weeks.
Yep, because it did happen on Anubis.
Right. But yeah, so let me check this out real quick. What did I have? Did I have it here?
I'm
No,
pretty
we,
sure it
we
was
didn't
on
cover a
last
bye
week.
week match last week. Okay, never mind. So then Energy take Anubis 2-1, and then moving on into Rialto, it's a full hold again. Energy take it 1-0.
And then that wraps it up for last week's matches. So the first night of this week's matches, July 17th, last night, we see last night's leftovers going up against Gladiators Legion. Me and Kyle both had this going the way of Gladiators Legion 4-0. And holy Moses, did we get a battle. And the leftovers, the first open division team, trials team, however you want to call them, to come up into contenders to get a win against an academy team, take this match 3-2. So what do you got on this slobber knocker?
Well, so this was the match that I broke down in the breakdown, the Blackwatch breakdown. So I am very fresh on at least these first two maps, and then as of tomorrow, I will be incredibly knowledgeable about the next two. But I still have tons of notes here. So we see on Lijiang Tower, we're starting out here, the Widow play from Corey and the Pharah play from Blase, specifically on Garden, was incredible. Corey was just getting opening picks upon opening picks, and then Blase was just really controlling that little window into the point with the Pharah and not giving anything for free. Tons of damage, bunch of really high impact barrages. Sugar-free on the Hanzo was coming in really, really solid, especially on control center, but unfortunately was not enough.
Oh, yeah. I want to actually talk about Enlar on Night Market for a quick second. There's a moment where Enlar's on Tracer, and he gets his Pulse Bomb, and Pooks Guardian Angels towards Panker, and as he's flying past Enlar just lobs the Pulse Bomb, catches Pooks midair, Pooks flies into Panker, wrecks both of them with the Pulse Bomb. It was one of the cleanest Pulse Bombs I've ever seen on a Mercy. It was fantastic, which opened it up for them to take the point.
Right, and this was one of the bits that on the breakdown I talked about, because when you slow it down, you notice that first off, Pooks is on Blase, who's on the Junkrat, like right next to him. He gets pulsed, and then he flies Guardian Angel to Panker, because if he stood next to Blase, Blase would definitively, without a doubt, die as well. So that'd be a 2K. Instead, he makes the decision in like literally half of a second to fly to Panker, who would have probably survived it if he timed it right. But unfortunately, Panker took a good amount of damage before, like literally right as the Pulse Bomb lands, and then gets like tapped, I think by like a Fire Strike right after, and it gets him as well. But like that was almost a really smart play from preventing 2 deaths and only making 1, but there's just a couple of little things here and there that made it still stay 2. But that was Lijiang going the way of the Gladiators Legion. Here we see the Legion kind of fall apart. Like it really looks like they did not practice it that well. I believe it was a full 2-0. So the LNL on their attack were able to just kind of push in and get held right before second. Or no, right after second. Right before third, I think.
Yeah, right before third. Like I think they were like 1.4 meters away or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I think Rolf had a really clutch like transcendence there and were able to get that solid away. But then on the Gladiators attack, Sugar-free was running the defensive Pharah, and not a soul touched him. I think Blase got 1 arrow kill on him once, but he fell right into the little high ground area that the Mercy likes to hide in, rezzed him immediately, and he's back up and then didn't die. Literally, they run a Widow and something else, or Widow Hanzo into it first time, and then they switch to Goats comp, which I was flabbergasted at, because you're running Goats comp into a Pharah. Not a good idea. They got decimated every single time, and then finally, 30 seconds left, Corey's like, guys, maybe I should go Widow. And then it's too little too late. They had no ults at all, nothing to work with, and then they got, full held. It was just, it
Okay.
was, yeah,
Well,
broke my heart.
there there's a play in here that was a desperation play, and it's amazing to see because it's actually on LNL's attack. Sugar Free's on the Hanzo, and I want to say they were just getting ready to go into overtime. Like they only had a little bit of time left right before point B. So what does Sugar Free do? From spawn,
Oh
he
yeah, yeah.
throws a Dragon Strike. Now, usually when you throw a Dragon Strike and you're in close proximity, it's hard to get people without the assistance of some sort of CC. So when you throw it from spawn, you know, it's just a zoning thing. You're just trying to get him to move away from something. Nope, he gets a 2K. Opens up the payload enough for them to push it to get into point B, which then allows them to take it all the way almost to point C. But yeah, like a Dragon Strike from spawn getting a 2K, you don't see it happen ever.
Yeah, and it worked incredibly well too because it was like a meter, like 1.7 meters away from the cap. And he knew that, there was people contesting the point. So basically, the Legion either had to get off the point and lose the contest, and lose the checkpoint, or stay on it and die. And they chose the second option, I guess. And it was super duper smart communication from LNL and a good play from Sugar Free to know where that team is and know that like that was the scenario and know that that was the best play.
And
Uh,
the fact that he knew the right angle from spawn to throw the Dragon Strike to get it to hit where the payload was.
I
Like,
think there's still like the markers and you can see the outlines of your team,
yeah, I
but it's
guess
still
so.
but it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that was Eichenwald 2-0, and then we move into literally like one of my favorite like maps that I've seen thus far,
The day
and
long
that is
map.
the the 35 minute of actual game time 7-6 Volskaya match. It's like it's shades of Dallas Fuel, I almost said Shanghai Seoul Dynasty from stage 1. It was shades of that. It was really, really cool to see. Super back and forth. Both teams just straight rolling on attack. LNL really, really, really hard focus Panker and shut down Corey here. Had a really good Goats defense as well. I think it's the second time going through, Rolf gets a 4K, just a casual 4K, to cap out the second point. And then here we see, although Corey gets shut down, Blase is able to kind of pick up the slack here and really kind of utilize the fact that he was the one not being focused and was able to get good kills off of that.
And then a little bit more on Corey. Um on LNL's first attack, they rolled through point A and then were able to steamroll into point B and just take it with a phenomenal time. 606 time bank. It was insane. But the second defense for the Gladiators Legion, they definitively lose point A. Like, it's lost. There's no reason to try to do anything. What does Corey do? He jumps down onto the point, gets staggered. Well, because he jumped down, like two other people tried to jump down thinking like, oh, maybe this is winnable. Nope, both of them get staggered, which allow last night's leftovers to just absolutely roll into point B again and just snowball the point for a second time. Corey just had absolutely horrible decision making at that moment. And I think really kind of could be one of the biggest factors to Gladiators losing this match, because if they would have been able to set up a defense, we might not have seen this go to a 7-6 LNL victory. You know, they could have defended point B on that second defense.
Right. And so L&L were able to take this. Gladiators Legion take Gibraltar that comes up next. So if they were to have, not made that particular mistake, they would have been fine. They would have won that 3-1. End of story. But moving on into Gibraltar, we see Decod kind of go a little bit over aggro here to go after Corey's Widow. Again, they're trying to shut down Corey. They recognize his playmaking ability, and they go to shut him down. But Decod kind of overextends, especially when you're playing that first point defense or first point attack, and the Widow's playing and kind of in the back. You want to push into the shuttle room to try to get the final kill on the Widow because she's up in that back ledge, and then we'll hook shot away. But basically, like, once you go through those doors as a Winston, you're probably going to die. You're not going to make it back out. And he did that quite a number of times. But then on their defense, L&L, Sugar-Free gets a 5K and forces out the Primal. It would have been a 6K. It would have been literally a complete carry 6K, but Panker had Primal and then pulls it out, which he shouldn't have because it was an absolutely lost fight. Why are you going to Primal when you're the last one alive and you're pushing the payload to the end? Maybe because you're going to try to knock people off and hopefully get that, but like that was still just a silly play, in my opinion. But Legion on the opposite side kind of got rolled on first, but were able to gain traction and then have like a pretty good 2-3 minute hold on shuttle phase. Cool to see.
Oh yeah, and kind of going into, I guess it really wouldn't be poor decision making, because the way that the kills went for Gladiators Legion after they took point A on their attack, it actually staggered Ajax and Sugar-Free to the point where they respawned in the forward-most spawn point. So as they run out of the spawn point to try to get back to their team, who now spawned at the further away spawn, ran directly into the attacking Gladiators Legion. Sorry, I'm completely losing my train of thought there. And then both of them get staggered again because it's just a DPS and a support, and they just get absolutely wrecked. The Legion got so much free push off of that stagger that it almost got them all the way to the yellow box. I think it got them right down at the bottom of the ramp by the time L&L was able to get back and start to contest. Just a massive stagger. Like it was crazy to watch how much free push they got off of that.
Yeah. And so they are able to win that. Does the Gladiators Legion, still the hardest team name to say. Moving on into Ilios. This is where L&L takes it 2-0 and solidifies their victory here. Sugar-Free and Enlayer both have a fantastic game. Decod has this great fight where it's versus gods on Baby Diva in Lighthouse. It's super duper back and forth. There's like 2 people left, and then one person, it's like a 1v1, and then Decod wins out the fight. But then on the opposite side, the thing that I've noticed here, and it's super interesting to see, is the Legion will always take the first fight. And then either the second or the third, L&L takes it back. And it's usually like either, 40% or like 60%. And then L&L start building up. But then every single time after that, Gladiators Legion cannot retake at all. So like if they win the first fight, which they always do, and they can hold it, they win. If they lose if they lose any single fight after the first one, they can't retake it and they lose the point entirely. It's super I don't understand what exactly it is. Maybe I'll figure this out tomorrow when I break it down. what the reasoning is for why they cannot retake a point, like if their life depended on it.
Oh, and to kind of point out something to help you with that, there's a moment where Blase on the Pharah pops barrage and gets a 3K with a barrage, and they're unable to take the point after getting a 3K off of a barrage. Like, you usually don't see, you know, at least in control point, where you kill half of the team and you're unable to take the point. And I mean, they were literally right on the point. He barraged inside of the lighthouse, taking out 3, got nothing for it. It was basically a wasted barrage.
Yeah, and then I had my final note is that Corey had some pretty good moments here, but overall got really hard focused by Enlayer, and that was basically it. L&L take it.
I do want to throw something else in here real quick. I didn't put it on the notes. But just kind of talking about Enlayer. Enlayer got a little aggressive, went after Panker, and
chestnut.
completely mistimed his recall and recalled literally into the middle of the gap and just fell straight down. It was hilarious.
That was definitely like I have overextended. I have made a huge mistake.
I'm questioning every decision in my life right now as he's falling into the pit.
But yeah, so that'll basically that was L&L Gladiators Legion, a really, really fantastic game. I recommend you watch it, and if you don't want to just watch it and you want to, you know, really, really get into the plays here, there's the VOD on this Blackwatch Report Twitch that'll show me breaking down the first 2 without my pen and marker being on screen. I'll figure that out for the next one. And then tomorrow I'll probably break down the next Volskaya, Gibraltar, and Ilios. But moving on into the next match.
We see Fusion University going up against Mayhem Academy. Both of us had this going 3-1. We both figured that Mayhem Academy would be able to at least pull one map off of Fusion University. Well, we were wrong. Fusion University 4-0 Mayhem Academy. How many notes you got on this one?
3. And I watched a bit of, I think it was yesterday, the day before. No, it had to be yesterday. Yesterday evening, Elk did a VOD review of the match, like literally 2 hours after it ended. And he basically said, like, he was pretty stoked on it. He thought that they all played really, really well. Started off unleashing Tower. Fusion University take it 2-0. No notes here. It was just great play from everyone. Everyone's doing what they normally do. King's Row here. This is where we start to see ZP kind of slip into madness. ZP doesn't like the GOATS comp.
Hates it.
ZP loses it when the GOATS comp comes up. And what does Fusion like to run a lot in this game? GOATS comp. So they just straight wreck the entire way on King's Row. And then, you know how I said that it's cool to see plays from contenders kind of be, you know, or at least team comps be stolen and taken into Overwatch League from contender teams? Well, we got to see some parroting as well. Some, you know, stealing from your favorite heroes. We saw the sneaky Sureforce strat come out from Mayhem Academy. We saw the push into a building. We saw Shaq sit and spawn. We saw him switch to the Widow and get some headshots. We saw just Zachary dead on top of the movie theater quickly after. So that was kind of cheeky, but it wasn't enough to get them the win. Moving on into Volskaya. Fusion University take it. I don't even have what the score is. I think it was a 2-1. Could be wrong.
Yeah.
But then one of the things I have is solo grab a Pharah equals eliminate only GOATS counter. I think Zachary posted a tweet about this, about like solo grabbing Pharah a bunch of times, but it works. If you're running GOATS comp and you solo grab the Pharah, she can't fly away. You kill her instantly. Now you don't have anything to kill you, because that's like I don't think Mayhem was running the Junkrat as well. And so they will just continue playing Goats Comp and win. Gibraltar, I don't have any notes. Went to Fusion 2-1. Quick map, quick review. Next match, I guess.
Oh yeah, and it was kind of cool because after Zachary tweeted out about doing the solo graphs on Farah, Sit, one of the guys that comes from the Goats and built this whole team comp. They just kind of traded little secrets on Twitter, saying, "Hey, if you try this, or if you play this way," and it was cool to see the former member of Goats kind of giving tips to the guys using his comp. So it was definitely interesting. But that's going to take us into the final matchup for the night. We have Second Wind going up against GG Esports Academy. We both had this going 3-2. It was pretty close. GG takes it 3-1. So what do you have?
Sharp is in, and he's looking sharp. This was his first game back now in the United States at the GGEA Team House practice facility somewhere in Texas. All of the team is there now, I believe. We also see Gray in at that flex support again. We saw Ponzer in previously in that spot, but now we're seeing Ponzer move in to the flex support. So kind of in the same way that Bonnie took the transition from being a flex support player into being that designated mercy player, Ponzer did the same thing. And we're seeing Aid not play anymore, at least for this particular matchup. GGEA took Lijiang Tower 2-0, looking super strong. King's Row as well, 2-1 going to GGEA. Sharp had phenomenal moments here on Widow. Also a lot of really, really good Tracer play, I think, here, and then more so in Anubis, where GGEA take it 4-2. And Fisher had, I think, the polar opposite of an AKM blade, or we're going to call them Fisher blades, because the dude got 3 in 1 fight. AKM didn't get 1 in 5 fights. Fisher gets 3 in 1 fight. And he had a great Hanzo play on the defensive side as well, as Sharp just decimating the team on Tracer. So again, there's the win from GGEA. There's your 3-0. Moving on to Rialto, what do you think happens? Does the not as good team get a win on this random map? Yes, they do, of course. They're able to push it all the way to the third, but then we actually see a team get held somewhere that's not first or all the way completing it, which was interesting. I think it's the first time I've ever seen it happen. So that's always interesting to see. But yeah, Second Wind are able to get Rialto 3-2, but overall GGEA takes it.
And that's going to wrap it up for the analysis. So we're going to go into the NA standings. I'm going to grab Group A. I'm going to let Kyle grab Group B. So I'm going to start us off. We've got Fusion University sitting atop of Group A at 3-0 with a map record of 11-0-1 with a +10. Gladiators Legion follow them up in second with a 2-1 record, going at 9-0-4 with a +5. GG Esports Academy also with a 2-1 with a slightly worse map record. They have 6-0-6 with a perfect 0 on their differential. Mayhem Academy rounding out the top 4. They have a they have a record of 1-2, map record of 5-0-7 with a -2. Sitting down in the relegation spots, we have last night's leftovers, also 1-2, but their map record is slightly worse. They are 4-0-9 with a -5, and then poor old Second Wind, 0-3 with a map record of 2-0-10 with a -8.
Yeah, and I looking forward here, I think LNL might be able to kind of squeeze out that spot. Yeah, I think they might be able to push out Mayhem Academy if they kind of continue doing what they did previously. If Sugar-Free has these games, I think that we can see the very first time that a Academy team gets relegated down and the open teams make it up into playoffs, which is always cool to see.
I'm not gonna lie. I want to see an academy team in open division. I want to see how it's gonna work, because it's gonna be something completely different.
And it'd be really awkward too if they don't make it back up.
Oh yeah,
they're getting hard dropped, unfortunately. But moving on into Group B here, we don't have as many maps played because Group B is playing their matches tomorrow, and we will cover those. We'll do our predictions after this and cover them next week. We see Toronto Esports at the top with a 2-0 match record, 7-2 in maps with a +5 differential. XL2 Academy, same as well with the 2-0, but they have a slightly worse differential because they are 6-3 with a +3. NRG is at 1-1 with a 6-3 maps +3 differential. Envy is dead even at 1-1, 4 maps, 4 maps lost, so a 0 differential. Skyfox is 0-2 with 3 wins, 6 losses. And lastly, bye week, really living up to that name. Maybe they'll get a couple of maps at the very last game of the season before inevitably going back down into trials again. Because they are at 0-2 with a 0-8 map record and a -8 differential.
Feel so bad for bye week.
Yeah.
They just started selling merch too, so it's like, man,
their best players too are always leaving them.
Oh yeah. Yep, and that definitely does not help them at all. But that's going to wrap up the quick play for this week, which is going to take us into the main discussion. And man, we got a big one. We saw ioStux, the coach for XL2, the new assistant coach for XL2, with a massive post over on Reddit about the issues with the Overwatch path to pro. So Kyle, why don't you start off with point 1?
So he kind of laid out 8 different points why the tier 2 scene is having issues and things that he thinks could be fixed about it. First off was a lack of funding. I don't think this surprises anyone that there is a underfunding, or there's definitively overwhelmingly so not as much money in Contenders as there is in Overwatch League, which is expected. But I think in like ratio senses, it's less than it should be as well. He basically stated that coaches are really having a rough time with this. He previously made $40 a month from coaching before he was brought on to XL2. And the other interesting thing is that for winnings, just overall winnings, not from salaries from teams, coaches are not entitled to any of them, which is a huge problem that he has found. So if teams want to completely undercut a coach, they can do that.
And he even calls it out that there's times where it happened, where someone brings on a coach and then they don't give them any of the winnings. So like that's kind of crappy on the teams. But on top of that, the lack of funding, the little bit of funding that the trials teams get and then even the contenders teams get, it takes a while to get paid out from everything I'm hearing.
Oh yeah. Months and months and months.
I think that the season 1 payouts for trials either just hit or are like just being processed.
I think along those lines.
The coach for last night's leftovers, Katie, is constantly talking about this on Twitter. If you follow her on Twitter, she's very vocal about the way that the payouts happen. Some tournaments in other games, literally when the teams end the tournament, within hours are getting paid. And these aren't even like tournaments hosted by, a multi-million-dollar company, Activision Blizzard. So what's the holdup? Like, you're gonna pay them so they can actually, pay their bills. But that's going to take us into the second bullet point, which was academy teams don't help. The academy teams are tied directly into Overwatch League teams. So that means that these teams have a parent team that paid $20 million to join the Overwatch League. So we know that these academy teams have money, and we're seeing that more in season 2, because in season 1 the academy teams were spread out. Nene was still in Korea. Sharp, I believe, was over in EU somewhere. I forget where exactly he is from. Sweden. And now all of the academy teams, if you pay attention to their social medias, they're all at team houses. What don't LNL, Second Wind, Sky Foxes, Bye-Week have? They don't have team houses. They don't have a way to reliably practice and scrim in a live environment together for multiple hours a day. Some of them are playing on higher ping than, their teammates. The funding and the support for the academy teams directly affect the trial teams, and in a lesser extent the open division teams, because at some point they might become trials teams. It just allows them to play at a substantially higher level than the trials teams. And I mean, we saw it in season 1, we're currently seeing it in season 2. Kind of makes you wonder, what's the point in doing the path to pro if you basically have to fight a giant at the end and you only have a stick to fight that giant with?
Yeah. Especially with like a player like Sugarfree, right? Like, I really, like, if he does not get picked up by an academy team after this season, I will probably, like, my faith in the whole path being so very clear, your Crusher 99 storyline, I don't believe that is a thing anymore. I think that I that will kind of like lose my faith in the whole system and the process. Because he is a phenomenal player, but because he's on an unpaid team, there are disadvantages to that, and that could hold him back in the long run from being, the player that he has the potential to be, because he's like 14.
Oh yeah.
The guy has like 4 years to get even better, and he's already like one of the best players in the entire Contenders region.
And I would somewhat disagree, because the path is still there. It's just their path is an unpaved,
It's just a big step in the way. You gotta like climb up a wall in order to continue walking on the path.
Their path is a mountain, where the academy teams is a paved highway with no traffic. Like, that's basically what it is.
But the next point he has is lack of exposure, in that there's obvious reasons that Blizzard have not super duper hyped up Contenders, because they have this giant multi-million, $100 million league that they have put tons and tons of money and effort into, and they don't want to put too much into Contenders, so people watch Contenders instead of Overwatch League, even though they're at different times.
Yep.
I mean, maybe you get burnt out watching Contenders, don't want to watch Overwatch League, but if anything, if you're burnt on Overwatch, you will watch OWL and not Contenders. I don't really get the reasoning on this. There is very low viewership. It has been pointed out time and time again. That's like part of the reason, like, why I'm so, behind the show that we do here, is because I recognize that, like, not a lot of people watch, but like an hour a day, you can get a full week's worth of all your stuff and not need to watch, 6 hours worth of games and look all up down Twitter on a bunch of teams that you don't really care too much about. That is why I like doing this, because we recognize the fact that viewership is low, and if we can help people kind of get hyped about it, if we can hype up a match and get people to just watch the one match, like if we can get people to go back and watch the LNL Legion VOD and be like, oh, that was really, really cool, who never watched before, like, that is what we're doing here. Because Blizzard is really not behind the viewership.
100%. This exact point right here is why I started my first show that lasted 10 episodes. Open division quick play. I'm going to plug the crap out of it, because I don't do it anymore, so it's not like I'm taking viewership. But the reason I started that show was because they gave us this, like they did that sweet hype video for Crusher 99, and I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I'm gonna watch the upcoming talent advance all the way up into the Overwatch League. And then I look into it, and nothing in Open Division is being casted. There's nothing being promoted. The only thing that's actually kind of being promoted about it is, hey, sign up started. That doesn't do anything. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a show, and I'm going to try to push these guys' name as far as I can. If me talking about it makes 10 people, one person, whatever it might be, say, hey, you know what? This guy is as good as anyone in the Overwatch League. He should be in there. That's why I started that show. And then once Contenders came along and we officially got everything, that's why me and you got together and we're like, we have to do this. We're just two guys that enjoy the game, that enjoy watching the esports. We have no vested interest in this. We're not making millions of dollars off of this. But Blizzard is.
Yeah.
Like, you have a minor league system that you could be promoting and selling ad dollars to, like you do with Overwatch League, because like you said, they don't play on the same night. There's no direct competition. We heard the casters talk about the GOATS comp. No one that watches Overwatch League knew what the GOATS comp was until it was explained on the desk. And it's like, me and you and the listeners and the people in the Discord, we all knew what it was. And it's like, if you just pay attention to this, you'll see what's coming to Overwatch League. Blizzard, please, please throw it on the launcher. Like, tweet from the main Overwatch League account. I have a suggestion for you. Open Division? Open Division doesn't play during Contenders. Random select 2 matches from each region each week, because they play last time, I think it was Sunday, Tuesday. Have your casters that do Contenders that aren't doing anything for those like 4 weeks, I think, that Open Division runs, have them cast some Open Division matches. Put those on the Contenders Twitch channel, and then promote the Twitch channel through all of your social medias. Just a little bit. That's all the players are asking. That's all the fans are asking. Because I would love to be able to talk to other people about Contenders, not just Overwatch League.
Exactly.
Sorry, I got real passionate about that one.
No, that's fine. That is fair. That's fair.
That's going to take us into number 4, the inequality across regions. This is another big one. So we see NA, EU, and Korea getting 4 times the amount of money, the little bit of money that they do get, as South America, the Australian, and the Pacific regions. And I believe China's also in the smaller prize pool. If you're taking forever to do payouts, and the payouts aren't enough to sustain a living, and then you cut that in 4s and give it to your other regions, you're not going to get as much engagement. Like, I know it's your tier 2, like, it's not Overwatch League, but if you're building this to be a stepping stone, make it worthwhile for these people to play in. Like, don't shortchange them.
Yeah, and then one of the we'll try to get kind of quicker through this because Overwatch League starts in a half an hour and it's pretty hype stuff. But we want to continue with our last couple points here. Is one of them is one that I've kind of battled with, is like the fact that there's a ton of really good Overwatch League level Korean players in spots in NA. I mean, basically your top, almost your top like 5 or 6 teams in NA have at least like half of a Korean roster. Fusion does, Toronto does, XL2 does, NRG has I think about
Poise,
Poise,
Rascal.
Rascal, and um, Butcher slash
Yep.
Swan. So like all these teams have like there's even Mayhem has Hagapin. So you have a bunch of really good players, uh, Overwatch League talent that are taking these spots from possible and like actual NA players, which is part of the problem. And like I do very much enjoy seeing hype matches and seeing incredible play from players like Alarm. But I definitely understand this point.
Yeah. And then the next point was cronyism, friend picking. We kind of saw this going into Overwatch League. It's gonna be something that's a little bit difficult to get around when it comes to the tier 2 scene, because unless it's an academy team, that's all you're going to get from these teams that don't have orgs backing them. It's going to be, hey, my buddy's a really good tracer. Well, this other guy's a better tracer. Yeah, but this guy's way better. We should bring him in because we have better synergy. Then the other guy gets left to, try to start his own team. The friend picking and the cronyism, it doesn't help anybody. It just furthers one or two people's careers instead of the whole scene. So I really would like to see that kind of go away, but it's going to be real difficult for teams that don't have large backing.
Yeah, and then the seventh point was a little bit less concise as the first six. It's kind of a combination of the fact that there's like certain things that they don't have, so it's hard to get better, like the replay system. But the other problem that he brought up was that your top teams are scrimming each other, so your bottom teams aren't getting. I assume that this is all Fusion playing against Toronto, playing against Gladiators, playing against XL2, playing against NRG, and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, LNL, Bioweek, and Skyfoxes are all screaming against each other, not like learning a ton because, well, you've got a match against, Fusion who have just been running through people, which is to be expected. We've heard things from a lot of teams who, I assume Shanghai is probably having a rougher time getting scrims than, your Valiant are, or, XL2 is going to be incredibly, NYXL is going to be incredibly selective over who they scrim with. So it's a thing that's going to happen across all of these levels, but it doesn't mean it's not an issue.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then the final thing is patches not lining up. There was a moment where we saw, I believe it was 3 different patches being played across all of the different levels of Overwatch. Open Division, Trials, Contenders, and Overwatch League. I don't remember the exact patch numbers, but the Open Division teams that were getting ready to go into Trials were playing on live. The Contenders teams that got relegated were playing on the patch that was actually before live. So the Open Division teams had no way of scrimming on what they were going to be going into. And then Overwatch League is always kind of playing on like a patch or two behind. So when viewers are watching, if you're watching Overwatch League, you're not playing what you're watching. And if you're a Trials team, you're playing something that might be obsolete, or you might have to go back to something that's obsolete when you move up into Contenders or Trials. So it's just, they need to figure out a better patching system, or tournament realms. I mean, we know they have them.
Yeah.
Put Open Division and Trials and Contenders on the same exact patch that Overwatch League is on, I guess. Like, I don't know how you would fix it, but it is something that kind of, hinders the lower tiers when it comes to advancing. But that's going to wrap up the main discussion. I do have some questions for ioStux. I'm going to try to message him because I want to know his thoughts on like the two-way contracts and the new rules on rosters, because he seems to be extremely passionate and knowledgeable about these things. So if I get answers back on those, I will definitely bring those up on one of the upcoming shows. But that's going to take us into the speculation station, and that is going to be for the next set of matches. July 19th, we have bye week going up against Team Envy. Me and Kyle both have that going the way of Team Envy 4-0. And then Toronto Esports going up against NRG. Kyle has this going NRG 3-2. I have it going Toronto 3-2. So we'll see who comes out on top of that one. So far, Kyle's beating me on the splits. We've had 2 splits, and he's gotten both of them. So
I didn't remember that. But yeah.
That was me giving Second Wind and LNL the benefit of the doubt in the first couple series. But the last matchup for July 19th is going to be the Sky Foxes going up against XL2 Academy. We both have this going XL2 3-1. I hate to say that might be a little bit generous for the Sky Foxes. Expect a 4-0, but let's hope for a 3-1.
Yeah, and then moving on to July 24th. So you covered the game tomorrow. This is the Tuesday before our next episode. Mayhem Academy is going up against GGEA. We both have this going GGEA's way 3-1. Fusion University, I literally just switched this after rewatching the Gladiators Legion game. It's Fusion University against Gladiators Legion. You have it going 3-1. I have it going 3-2. I was on the Legion side, but then seeing how dominant Fusion have been and how not the Legion has been after that LNL match, there's some very clear, things that are going wrong with Legion at the moment. Not huge things, but they're things that Fusion can take advantage of. LNL versus Second Wind is the final map of that day that we will cover, and that is predicted by us to go LNL's way 3-1.
And if these matches play out the way that we have them lined up, we will see for the first time an Academy team sitting in a relegation spot, because LNL will jump Mayhem Academy. So best of luck, Mayhem. Best of luck. That's going to wrap it up for us tonight. As always, if you are an audio listener, swing by the Twitch channel, hit that follow button. We could use all the follows that we can get. And then if you are an audio listener, if you watch the VODs, if you hang out on YouTube, swing by the iTunes. iTunes reviews are a huge help. They go a long way of getting coverage for us in the podcast area. The more reviews with the more stars, the higher up it is when someone searches for Overwatch content in that area. So any review will help. A 1-star, a 5-star, anything in between, and we will read your review live on the show. But with that, Kyle, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at Twitter and Twitch. I've started streaming a lot more stuff on Twitch, mainly Borderlands 2, fun game. But then I will also stream stuff on the Blackwatch Report tomorrow. So Twitter and Twitch, Kyle the Winner, Blackwatch Report tomorrow, probably 11 or 12 on the Blackwatch Report, Twitch. What about you?
You can find me on Twitter at ThornRain. I'm also at ThornRain over at twitch.tv, but I do most of my streaming over on the Blackwatch Report Twitch channel. You can find the show on Twitter at Blackwatch Report, no O in report. You can email the show blackwatchreport@gmail.com. You can follow the show on Twitch at twitch.tv/blackwatchreport. We record live Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern. Our intro music is the main theme for Overwatch, covered by our very own Kyle Wynn. This has been a High Noon production. You can find all of our shows over at highnoonpodcast.com, and you can come and chat with me and Kyle and all of the other hosts over on the Discord at discord.me/highnoonpodcast. And with that, Blackwatch out.